Peeps, welcome in the Friday action of the slate here on DK Live. My name is Jeff Ulrich. Follow me on at the Fantasy Matt Lamarca, at Matt Lamarca. Let's dive right into it. We got a short, sweet 25, 30 minutes to go. We got Madden coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern as well right after. So we got Matt. We're going to talk a little trade deadline action, but to keep that to the end, obviously last last show to talk about the Super Bowl. Definitely going to touch on that. So, I mean, right off the top, Matt, has any of your opinions changed from like the start of the week to now? Has anything drastically changed in your opinion from where you were at the start? Have you made any like changes in your betting and in your edges, or just what you think is going to happen? I mean, lay it on me. What's your feelings here?
Yeah, I'm sticking firm with my take on the Eagles. I think that the Chiefs, the fact that they just posted their injury report, no players listed on it, so Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney, they will be full goes. Like, that's obviously a boost for them. And the fact that this line really hasn't budged is also like a little bit concerning for me. There's definitely been more Eagles money than Chiefs money. So I would have liked to see this line get back to, 2.5 or so, but I still think that you look at the Eagles just overall talent level, and it's just significantly higher than the Chiefs. I think they're going to dominate in the trenches when they have the ball on offense, and I think that their defense is going to do a good enough job against the Chiefs. Really, all they need to do to cover the spread is just win the game outright. And Jalen Hurts in his career is now 21-4, just straight up as a favorite. So there are plenty of good Chiefs trends too, obviously. So I'm not putting like a huge amount of stock in the trends, but I just think the Eagles have the better team. It's that simple for me.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment of this game. Again, I've pretty much been on the same side since the start of the week as well. I won't even be shocked if we get an outcome where the Eagles win by like 10 plus points. I mean, I don't think I'd call it a blowout, but just potentially their defense takes over in the second quarter. Maybe we get some kind of like funky turnover, and all of a sudden, instead of the Eagles being up by 3, 7, it's like 10 or 14. So I could see those scenarios playing out. It reminds me a little bit too, in terms of like where the money's going, a little bit of last week where we just never got that move with the Eagles and the 49ers. But I feel like it's people still doubting the Eagles. I feel like there's, like last week it was like, oh, the 49ers are so good. Even I was talking them up. And, I'm like, you should just take the points. They're really good. And I feel like people are doing that with the Chiefs as well. And I think they're kind of overlooking the fact that this Eagles team, I think it's really complete. I think it's one of the more complete teams we've had like in the past decade. And I think we're going to find that out this Sunday. So I'm kind of with you on the line. Let's dive into it, because is there any other ways that you feel like is a good way to play either the line or the total here? Like whether it be alts, whatever, anything. Like let's just stick with that right off the bat. I mean, obviously you can just, like you say, you can just bet the Eagles straight up, or you can take the -1.5. But anything else that kind of pops up to you for quarters, halves, anything like that?
I like the under on the total in general. We've talked about this a couple of times, but I just think 51 is too high for the way that defenses play in 2023, right? It's a very bend but don't break style. You try to just limit the big plays, and it leads to a lot of, long drives that end with field goals, or even long drives that end in touchdowns are fine as long as there's not, an overwhelming a number of them. So if you look at games with a total of at least 50 points this season, the under is 18-9. So winning roughly 2/3 of the time. And in the Super Bowl in general, the scoring is usually a bit lower, right? There have been 13 games with a total of at least 50 in the Super Bowl, and the under is 9-3-1 in those contests. Teams or players talk about how it's kind of weird for your body to adjust to the extended halftime. There's obviously a lot of pressure that comes with playing in the Super Bowl. So I think expecting at least somewhat of a slow start or out of each half is pretty reasonable. So yeah, I like the under. I actually probably like the under more than I like the Eagles as a side.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable. Extra week, I feel like that favors the defenses. Again, what do we see sometimes at the start of seasons? Defenses just don't have a grasp of it, but you give them that extra week. I feel like that does favor them. Maybe that's just me just talking it up and trying to find a reason to like it as well. But I think that probably is in favor of the defenses. You brought up good points there. Those trends are really amazing. I know the 50-point trend was something I looked at early in the week. I think it's a good one to bring up. I think it's valid. I think when games get like this too, when they get over 50, it's because they have popular offenses on both sides and people want to bet the over. And the bookmakers say, fine, here's a bigger total, and people just keep betting it. So I think we're at a point of 51. Agree. I will say this. I do like probably my favorite way to play total is the Chiefs team total under 24.5 to me. The Eagles I think they allowed this 3 times in the entire season. One of them was without Hurts, where they got in that shootout against Dak. It's not that you can't pass on the Eagles, and the Chiefs certainly have passed against good, passing defenses before. But man, like asking the Chiefs to score over 24 points here, oof. I don't know, man. If I like the Eagles side, I got to feel like that's a really good under to be on. So with you on the total as well. I know I put out my initial prediction for this game was 31-20. If I could adjust that today, I'd probably do like 27-20 or something like that, because I like the under too much to keep that. So, okay.
This Eagles defense, man, I think it's been underrated, if anything, right? I don't think they've gotten enough attention. This year. Like kind of everybody's been talking about San Francisco, and San Francisco's defense was also really, really dominant. But against the pass specifically, I think the Eagles are clearly the best defensive team in football, right? Like in terms of sacks, they had 70 sacks this year. No other team had more than 55. They have 3 corners that rank in the top 23 at the position per Pro Football Focus. Like they are insanely tough to pass on. And as much as Mahomes' health hasn't been a huge talking point, like it's a little bit scary to back a banged up quarterback going up against such a ferocious pass rush.
And the one thing that like mid-season, they went through a little bit of a slump in terms of like rush defense, but they've actually, if you look at their back half, like last 6 games, the rush defense has been pretty good.
They added some players. They added Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph with the sole intention of trying to shore up the run defense a little bit. And for the most part, it's worked.
Agreed. And I think it's a great point. Again, like bringing up some of these defensive props. I mean, look, certainly not my specialty, but do you have anyone like on the defensive side of the ball you're looking at or anything?
I mean, I would probably lean towards Hassan Reddick. I mean, he was just so good last week. I want to say he's been generating. I saw a stat that he has gotten to the quarterback in less than 2.5 seconds on something like 11% of his pass rushes this year, which is just an insane figure.
Yeah.
I'm really more looking for like a team sacks total.
Right.
And it might be in DraftKings Sportsbook. I can't find it for the life of me, but I've seen some numbers like 3 sacks. And if I'm taking the over on 3 or 2.5, whatever the number may be for team sacks. I'm a big fan of that with the Eagles.
Okay, if it's not in team props, then I don't know where it is. Let's see here. We'll go quick. I'm not going to spend the whole show looking for it, obviously, but field goals, total points, money line, Chiefs. Oh my God, there's so many props for this game. Touchdown.
It's so overwhelming, which is why I feel pretty good.
There we go. I found it. 2.5.
I felt pretty good that it was in there somewhere. I just couldn't find it. Yeah, over 2.5 minus 140. Sure. Yeah. I don't know if you can do alt totals or whatever. If you can get better odds at a bigger number, I'd be fine with that too. Yeah. But yeah, this defense has just been a absolute monster getting after the quarterback all year, and I don't see why that would change.
And I don't know, maybe you're putting together some kind of parlay. I don't know if you can use this in the single game parlay, but that's a good one, man. Absolutely. Again, a quarterback less than 100% probably has not faced this kind of pass rush all season. I mean, really, they've been so far and above the best that when else? I mean, maybe when they went up against San Francisco, but yeah, that's
right. And there was no Bosa in that game. Like
oh, good
it,
point. Yeah, that's
it
right.
really
Yeah,
is. It's been quite some time since they've
yeah,
seen a really good pass rushing team. And Mahomes, he does have some mobility, but he's the type of guy who likes to let plays develop and get downfield. So I don't think he's necessarily all of a sudden going to be trying to get the ball out of his hands super quick every play.
yeah. I kind of like the under on the Chiefs team total now that I'm thinking about it a little bit. But definitely that Eagles over 2.5 worth a look. Okay, I like that one. That was a good start here. We're getting the defensive side. I haven't really talked about that much this week. So where should we go next? I mean, like obviously, are there any props that you feel you haven't gotten to talk about, or any markets you want to talk about? Anything that's come up? I know the Chiefs wide receiver situation got fleshed out a little bit. I think those are some interesting lines. I definitely like some ones in there, but you take it wherever you want, man. If there's someone else you want to talk about or somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely talked about this on my last show, but especially now that he's off the injury report, I really like the over on Kadarius Toney.
Okay.
He had 7 catches in his first full playoff game 2 weeks ago, and he had 2 catches or 2 targets on, I want to say, 4 snaps before getting hurt in the AFC Championship game. So like he is going to be a huge factor in their offense. He might not play more than, 40-50% of the snaps, but I think there's a legit chance that he's targeted on like 35-40% of his routes run. So I'm fine with the over on his receptions prop, on his receiving yards. I don't mind his odds to find the end zone. Like I think Kadarius Toney has become the clear number 2 option in Kansas City behind Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and it feels a little bit weird to say that because he really hasn't done that much, but you're right. Like when he's been on the field, he has been the clear number 2. Like they've used him on some of those Tyreek Hill plays. He hasn't really broken the big play downfield where the bomb. Maybe that'll be something that happens and flips the game for Kansas City. But 2.5 receptions, I don't disagree. Like that is really low for a guy who's been getting targeted at an insane rate kind of when he's been on the field. I actually don't mind the over on Juju either. He's on the field a lot. He's getting targeted on like a high percentage of his routes, and he's averaged over 4 receptions over the last 7 games. So I think like with both those players healthy, they have really low totals. And this is something else I pointed out, but like Mahomes has a 294 passing total. For him to come anywhere close to that, there's got to be some yards from these receivers. Like they have to do something. Travis Kelce can't get 200 yards. So, I mean, could, but like more likely one of these, probably multiple receivers are going to go over 40 yards, and nobody on the receivers has a receiving prop over 40 yards. So, we got McKinnon there. That's rush receiving. I'm not even in the right spot. So, nobody on the Chiefs has a receiving total over 40 yards. So, there again, you got to figure a couple of these guys go over. Again, I got Toney at 27.5. Juju's actually gone down. I think that's probably with people piling onto Toney a little bit, which I still don't mind taking the over there. I would probably just go over on the receptions. I like that a little bit more, but I think both those guys have a pretty viable chance to go over.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on with the routes and the snaps. Like he and MVS are still the 2 guys that are on the field the most for the Chiefs pass catchers. The thing is that like their targets have just been way down over the last few weeks. And you just hit one that I like right there, Justin Watson under 14.5.
I love this one. Yeah. Who's the loser in all this? It's Justin Watson, who comes on, plays snaps, but you know what he doesn't?
Sky Moore too. I think you can take an under on both guys. I'm fine with an under.
On sorry, Watson and
Sky Moore.
Sky Moore. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yep. Yeah. I don't mind that at all. And like what
Uh-oh. Lost Jeff's audio. But yeah, I think what Jeff was getting to was that he's back.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, gotcha,
Okay,
buddy.
awesome. Yeah, I just cut out for a sec. All right. Yeah, it was a blip. It was like the Marvel thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, Watson under 14.5, Sky Moore, who knows how much he's even gonna Sky Moore could be a guy who like doesn't play. I mean, legitimately at this point. So I like it. We're on the same page with both those guys. Yep.
Yeah, and for the Eagles receivers, I really have not been diving in. I kind of my favorite would just be to take the under on AJ Brown.
Yep.
I think it's kind of hard to separate him from Devontae Smith at this point. Their target shares have been really similar, basically all season, but especially of late. So I'm not sure why his is 10 yards higher than Devontae's. I'll just take the under there. But again, that kind of goes along with the game script, I think, being one where the Eagles should be able to run the ball.
Yeah. And I mean, again, if I'm taking, like, if I'm maybe looking to some of these alternate lines, like Miles Sanders over 100 is interesting. You could look for Kenneth Gainwell over on the rush yardage as well.
Yep. Talked about that one this week for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Gainwell's looked really good. I know some of his yardage is coming bloats, but I also think that like he's going to get his kind of usual boatload of touches here. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable to expect less than he's gotten the last 2 weeks, but he could still get 5, right? And like,
yeah,
you don't have to be great to get to 20 rushing yards on 5 carries.
Yeah, and especially the way he's looked, right? So,
right.
And I mean, just being on this team, I mean, with a team that runs so well, opens up so many holes. And you get a 12-yard rush, couple 5 yards, and you're there. So, yeah, he's looked good. And I think 5 is like a fair, like medium projection for him, 4 or 5. So, yeah, that's another one. All right. What do you want to?
Do you have a like a long shot MVP?
Yeah, actually, that's a good market to finish with here because I have a couple takes there. If I can find it, we'll find it. Let's start. Popular. I don't know.
So
anyways,
as I'm
finding it, you go ahead and tell me who you like.
My thing has been that if the Chiefs win, Patrick Mahomes is going to win the MVP.
Okay.
I just think it's hard to envision a scenario where the Chiefs win this game and it's not because Patrick Mahomes was the best player on the field, right? Like that just seems, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's highly, highly unlikely. I think the Eagles have more routes. But what we've kind of seen historically from MVP awards is that it's either going to be the quarterback, a pass catcher, or a defensive player. I can't remember the last time that like a running back was the Super Bowl MVP.
Terrell Davis, 1999.
Yeah.
And he had 3 touchdowns and like 130 plus yards. What's interesting, I do have like a little bit of interest in Miles Sanders. I think that what you've seen from Sanders is in this offense, like he has produced those type of games where 130, 2 touchdowns. I think he's done it 3 times 3 times. Definitely got over 130 yards 3 times. So, and he's had lots of multiple touchdown games. So I think that's there for him. His numbers come down. Like if you got this at plus 2,500 or plus 3, I think it's much better. It's getting bet down a little bit. I think as people realize like, okay, that's one path. The gap between Kelsey and Mahomes to me feels a little bit big. As we saw last year, like Cooper Kupp, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. I feel like Kelsey has a fairly decent route here. I mean, I definitely agree. If Mahomes is going to play well, but I just wonder if like Kelsey catches those 2 touchdowns, he goes over 100 yards, and Mahomes tops out at like, he goes under his prop maybe, and he maybe throws 3 touchdowns. But do they give it to Kelsey? I mean, be close. I think
there's a big difference between snubbing Matthew Stafford and snubbing Patrick Mahomes.
But Mahomes has won it once too, Matt. He has won one. So, they do
like that Stafford game.
He told everybody to screw off after the conference championship. What did he say? I can't even remember what he said.
He called the mayor of Cincinnati a jabroni.
Right. Yeah, he called everyone. Yeah, he called him a jabroni. So he's in the good graces.
So Stafford last year in the Super Bowl had 283 with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks.
That was Stafford?
That was Stafford last year in the game that Cooper Kupp won the MVP. I think if Mahomes posts the same stat line,
he's probably getting it. Yeah.
He probably wins the MVP award.
Yeah. I don't disagree. It's a quarterback-centric award. All the MVP trophies are. You're definitely taking on some serious risk. I feel like the gap is a little bit.
I won't even say it's a QB-centric award. I think it's a star-centric award, right? Like Cooper Kupp was the guy for the Rams last year. He was the the offensive player of the year. Like, he was the guy that was going to get the credit for the offensive success.
He was their team MVP. I mean, he legitimately, Mahomes is the Chiefs' team MVP. I don't disagree at all. I do remember what Kupp's MVP odds were. They were way shorter, weren't they? Like, they were like,
it was, I don't know, maybe 5-6 to 1.
Yeah, I don't even think it was that big. It may have been. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was definitely
a value, whatever it was. Yeah. I think that we're starting to realize that the path for a pass catcher is a lot clearer than it used to be.
Yeah,
but I think again, a lot depends on the quarterback, right? Like, we saw Julian Edelman win this award recently, but that was in a game where
that was a really low-scoring game, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Tom Brady kind of played terribly. So, like, I do think that the door is more open for a pass catcher now than it's ever been. I think when the quarterback is somebody like a Patrick Mahomes, it's just hard not to win it.
Absolutely. Like I said, you're getting better odds. And if you're going with one non-quarterback on each team, I would probably just go Kelsey and Sanders. I think that covers you good. It's a low investment, but Kelsey is plus 1,200 for a reason, because his quarterback is Patrick Mahomes and he's the biggest star of the league. So take that in mind when you're betting it. It's not something you have to get crazy with, but as non-pass catching options, those would be my two preferences. Tony is definitely in play too. If you want to sprinkle even bigger, maybe a guy like Dallas Goedert you could think about. Who knows? 100 yards and touchdown. I guess it's there. But I think that, you don't want to get too crazy on the Eagles, especially. They just have so many options that, Goddard, I think he's caught like over 5 passes like 3 times this year. He's not going to get the Kelsey usage. So anyways, I like that. I like the MVP discussion. You could, certainly look for a little bit different way to play. Obviously, if you're playing a Chief, you're expecting them to win as well. So, okay. I mean, any last thoughts on this game? This is it. I mean, I think this is the last time I have to talk about this game. I think I may have to do something tomorrow. I don't know. What about you? Anything else?
I'm done, baby.
Okay. We're done. We're both on the Eagles. It sounds like we kind of like the under as well. Not kind of, actually, Matt really likes it. I like the Chiefs under team total. A little bit split on MVP where it goes, but that's it. Give us a follow on Twitter at the Fantasy Grind, at Matt LaMarca. We got Madden coming up next in about 4 or 5 minutes. I'm not sure who's playing yet, but I'm gonna find out. As I'm finding out, don't forget we got the Sweat coming at you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'm gonna be back at the Boston office next week. So starting at 11 a.m. Eastern here, as we're getting the Madden info. It's Cincinnati versus Cleveland. So poor Cincinnati, man. Don't even get a week off.
Are you still in Arizona?
I am. Yeah, no, I am. I went down to maybe a row. What's that?
You're at the golf tournament?
So I'm not near the golf tournament. I'm going there. I'm with my family in just like a house. And then I'm going there on Sunday to watch the final round.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll see. Hopefully one of my guys is there.
Drunk on hole 16?
Not me, but I'll watch other people do that.
Good.
All
That's
right.
a responsible answer.
It is. I mean, I'm very responsible most of the time. We got Cincinnati versus Cleveland coming up. That's Matt LaMarca. Give him a follow. And guys, we'll see you next week. Like I said, Sweat, 11 a.m. Eastern. You can check us out at DK Live on the Twitter handle. Peace, guys. Have a great Super Bowl.